Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, I didn't know if you want to field these questions or if you want
Sure.
me to. I just wrapped up, so I was just saying I don't know if you'd heard that,
Yeah, I
you know,
just,
I think you can put the presentation together in PDF, right? Just so
right, exactly.
the group does have access.
I
Yeah.
don't know if that had to do with them or what happened. Anyway, that was the weirdest thing. It just closed up on me. Okay, so up at the top, I was reading the questions before that happened. Um, and I think I lost some of your chats. It probably went on the other one. So if you have questions and I don't bring those up, please type them in again because I think I lost a bunch of questions. Bernie, she's asking if you take part-time folks.
Yes, we have you may have, when I joined Nuance, or when it was Accentus years ago, we had lighter part-time contracts. We have transitioned away from the very light part-time, so as far as 10 and 15 hours a week, you know, those are not the types of positions that we generally recruit for at this point. But you know, a decent part-time, 25, 30 hours a week is what we sort of target. You'll need to hit contract goals and whatnot when you're up and running and working with us. So yeah, we certainly do hire part-time people, but it's, you know, a dedicated, you know, heavier part-time schedule, so to speak, versus, you know, a few hours here and there.
So probably what you're saying is not the 20, but above 20, so 25.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then and more, right? We have a lot of
Right.
work. So if you're
Oh,
looking for
yeah.
full time,
Right.
then that's
Sure. And it is an investment for the company as well to train people, so that's
mhm.
part of that reasoning. And Donna's asking, what headset do you recommend?
You know what? I personally have always had success with the Spectra headset that I had from my core, and
Huh.
I've replaced it a couple times, and it served me very well. I do have some recommendations of some others. Let me just see what I can come up with. And you know what? Perhaps I can include that to Audrey to send out to the
Sure.
group later on as well, because I have we've had headset giveaways through you know, our recruiting team and things like that in the past, and there are some noise canceling headsets that I've heard a lot of really great things about. Just depends on kind of your comfort, I think, as well.
Right, how they fit, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So I can get that information.
I've had great success as well by plugging my speakers or I mean my headset into my speakers, and I found that that helped me through my career just to drown out a lot of the background noise.
Yeah, that, you know what? That's
Yeah.
a great point. Yep.
Yeah. So that's another really
Yeah, it's more of a
advantageous.
direct.
Right, and you can then you've got a couple of avenues to even boost sound volume, which is nice.
Hmm.
And I think woofers and tweeters, as we used to call them in the old days, somehow,
Yeah.
you know, mellows out the sound a bit and helps. So, um, and what do we, next question. Deborah is asking, would we have to qualify to do practicum with Nuance?
We, and you know what? If I had my recruiter here, we have historically had one account that was dedicated to our practicum students at CanScribe. I just need, that's not an account that I manage. So Audrey, are we still
I
partnering for
I
practicum?
think that some, we do have a select few that get chosen to partner up with Nuance or
Yeah,
M-Modal for practicums, but it all depends on availability and it all depends,
right.
you know, how many slots they have open at that time that you finish. And it also depends on your scores.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And Carolyn McEwen would be the one to ask at CanScribe because she handles the entire practicum. And Donna is asking, what is the training once you're hired, I'm assuming, and how long does that last?
You know what, it is, we don't have a closed time frame on that. So it varies from person to person, but I would say when I first speak to someone to when they're up and running, we usually target about 3 weeks or so. And but that's not to say that, you know, if you need a little bit longer or we're working on a certain thing, you know, that we're going to finish things up or anything like that. What we look for, we get you on board, you know, once you've signed your contract with Nuance and you're placed on an account, then you'd speak with someone, you know, like myself. So the operations manager on the account will give you a call, introduce ourselves, and kind of lay out what you can expect going forward. And what that is, we start you initially in our onboarding, so our corporate training, where you'll train on e-scription, you'll train on, you know, our FIESA, which is our quality audit, web clock, which is our timekeeping system. You'll train on the NTS transcription guidelines and some more general training that's self-paced, deadline-driven to get you going, and that usually happens over the course of a couple of days. And then you come back to me again. I introduce you to the account specifics on the account, particularly introduce you to the team lead on the account, and then you'll start your training, your hands-on gating or training right away. And at this point, you type about 20 minutes or so on a daily basis. Sometimes assigned work, we choose specific dictators. Depending on the account, you work directly from the pool. And then that's real live work. The next day, you know, you let us know when you're all done, the team leader and myself. You know, we go over that work from top to bottom, provide you all the feedback. You review your feedback, start your next round, and to be honest, a couple rounds, you can be released into full production. With certain people, you know, if you're struggling in a certain area, I'll work with you there, have you come back to, you know, the Nuance learning that I had talked to you about. We find for the most part, to be honest, our CanScribe grads do really, really well. I was thinking about it when I was making my presentation. I would say in the past 2 months, maybe 3 months, probably upwards of 10 grads come onto my accounts in particular, and they were all out working quite quickly, like within a week or, you know, 2 weeks. So we've had a lot of success.
That's awesome. So
No
all
issue
that
there.
struggling paid off.
It does, and don't feel too concerned. Like I was saying, I did my practicum with CanScribe, and I'm assuming that you still offer,
Yes.
like you do the practicums in-house as well.
Right.
And I felt a little bit concerned at the time, thinking, oh, I want, you know, maybe I should be doing that with an outside organization to help me get my foot in the door. And I was as well prepared, and I don't feel it made any difference, you know, for me at all. So yeah, I was working quite quickly.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so that's that.
Okay, and what should someone do to be noticed by Nuance when they graduate?
Ooh, good question. Well, if you're me, yeah. No, you know what? I was always one to send the resume and pick up the phone at the same time, because that was just, you know, my style. But no, I would say if you follow, we're actively recruiting at most times, and I know we're actively recruiting now. Right. So I would say you apply, you know, you send your resume to the email address that we'll provide to you. And Diana, who's our recruiter, I mean, like I said, we certainly take notice of CanScribe grads. It just depends on, you know, what our accounts are looking for at the time. Not every account that we have accepts new grads, but by far a lot of them do, and at least half of my book of business does as well. So then I'd sit tight, wait for a call back, but, you know, a day or two, if you haven't heard anything, pick up the phone and give her a call. And right. Then yeah, and then there's a short testing, you know, a theoretical and a small hands-on transcription test, and depending on how that evaluation goes, then, you know, she'll call you for a face-to-face voice-to-voice interview, get to know what you're looking for and the expectations that we have, and then, you know, if all goes well there, then we move to, you know, to the contract phase next. So, you know, I think that a follow-up always, you know, I know that I've had, when Diana in my position that I'm in now, recruiting lets me know, hey, I have, you know, this person coming onto your account. Here's their name, here's where they're coming from, their experience, you know, where they're at in the process, because then I know I'm prepared to speak with them on the phone. And she'll oftentimes have a little note in there saying, you know, oh, very eager, you know, really impressed me on the
Super.
phone, you know, things like that. So yeah, to make yourself shine, you know, it always sets that first impression.
Right.
And that's just simply with, you know, probably with follow-up and coming out of your comfort zone a bit. Because I know it's definitely an intimidating place to be, but you've got great skills. So
Right,
you
and
get out
always
there and show them
projecting
off.
confidence. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did
Mm-hmm.
hear from another recruiter. I probably sound like a broken record, but one of our recruiters that came on and did a webinar did mention social media and how it can work for you, but it can also work against you. And that recruiters and people in the industry do take notice of chronic complainers. So you want to always project positivity. People that are being negative about the profession, I don't think, or your schooling even, I don't think that that's probably, you know, the route to go, because people, it is a hard job. I've been in this industry for decades, and it's an extremely difficult job. And if I didn't feel positive about it, I couldn't do it every day. So we all need to just remember, you know, my grandmother had a saying when she raised us, you know, always put your best foot forward. You always want to project, you know, peace of mind. And it's okay, you know, when something's wrong to voice your opinion, but always try to look for the positives. And
Yeah.
I think that will serve you well. Sarah's asking us, what is the easiest way to organize your little red notebook?
Oh my gosh. So you do still use your little red notebook, do you?
Well, and
That was
people, I
yeah.
think we're all
Wow.
organizing by Excel spreadsheets and different
Yeah.
methodologies. Yeah. I go
Yeah.
by
I mean,
specialties, but do you have a better suggestion?
I use, yeah, I think I started out by specialties, like initially, and when I was in school, I don't use it anymore. But when I started working, I then sort of expanded it to dictators, I think, and I would have
Hmm.
tabs for the different difficult dictators and their, you know, typical things that their phrases that were hard to understand. But then I kept it within specialties as well. And we have a few tools as well. A lot of it is spreadsheet driven now, right? That
Mm-hmm.
you know, where you can, but I think a lot of people like to do that by dictator once they're, you know, working on an account that has the same repetitive dictators, right? Otherwise, I would say specialty
Right.
is where you
Right.
start for sure.
Well, and even your word expanders, you know, that to me was a godsend, because it's like, if you get it one time, this difficult phrase, you have it. You don't have to spend time looking it up, looking it up. Where was that? What did I hear that time? I had it written down. But if you put it into your word expander,
Yeah.
you have it.
It almost, yeah, it
Right.
almost serves as your you know, your little red notebook in a way as well. The one
Right.
I used instant text, and it's right on the bottom of your screen, right? So you can see like lists um,
Right.
that are right there. So yeah, it's right in your face,
Right.
and
And
it's
then you
yep, and
do begin to hear it better, because you're, you know, you have it committed to quote memory printout.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
yep, and they're not, you know, they're worth the investment. I know in the beginning you feel like, oh my gosh, you know, I just spent this money on my course and I'm just getting up and running, and now there's this thing that's, you know, $100 and something, but it pays off so quickly.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Because I went back to, I used to do QA, and then I changed positions, so I had to do more typing. And when I started doing that, I was like, I'm not going to last. I can't continue to bang the
Mm-hmm.
keyboard that much. And so I just purchased Instant Text. I have used that my entire career as well. And it was amazing. All the dictionaries were built in. It saved my life. And of course my production went up like
Mm-hmm.
incredibly. So I do think that it is probably the best production tool that you can use. And
Yeah.
as you pointed out, keyboard shortcuts. Anytime you're reaching for your mouse, you're wasting your production time. So I do think, that is important. And like you said, you can't learn all those at once. So tackling 1 or 2 a week, 3, and just doing them over and over, that's how we, get better at it.
Yep.
So, and
Yeah, I
Stephanie is
agree.
asking, how is production measured?
Weekly, at Nuance anyway. So as far as your contract and what you commit to with Nuance, we measure on a weekly basis. So we look for a certain number of lines typed on a weekly basis, and then when you do those is up to you. I think to break it down individually yourself, as you're getting up and running and reaching your goals, it's sensible to look at that on a daily basis, possibly an hourly basis if you're really measuring your own productivity and trying to see how you could maybe increase the next day and things like that. But yeah, I found making smaller, more incremental goals is what worked for me. But company on a whole, you're measured on a weekly basis.
And isn't there built-in to the software?
Yes.
For instance, like the company that I work for now, it tells you when you review your feedback and stuff. You could have used, excuse me, you could have used this shortcut, and little
Yep.
tips like that. I find that really helpful because it's like, oh, I never even thought of that. Wow,
Yep.
it's right
Yes,
there.
and it measures your productive time for you as well. You're exactly right. Yeah, we have
Yeah.
a shortcut feature that pulls up all of your metrics of what you typed during the time frame that you insert into it. So I mean, it'll default to what you've done that day, and at the bottom of it, yeah, it certainly says how much time you spent working versus logged into the system. Yeah, what have you tried this? Little tips and tricks on different keyboard shortcuts that you could have used and didn't, or other time-saving tips
Right.
that.
That's
Yeah.
super.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you folks, do you still use instant messaging to communicate, or what do you use when you're trying to work during the day between your
Yeah.
MTs?
We we do on the U.S. side, not on the Canadian side because we are independent contractors. So
Ah,
it's more of a privacy issue, I think, is
oh,
what I've understood. So you are a little bit more, I don't want to say isolated, but the connection amongst the team isn't quite the same. So I mean, I'm on my email all the time. So email and phone is how my team communicates with me. Texting, some of them text me, I text them.
cool.
Yeah, but no, the instant message is a feature for the employed staff in the U.S.
Ah, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because of their employees, so it's kind of set up as part of their
Right.
employment.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have to be an honor student to be considered at Nuance? I don't believe you do.
No, no, definitely not. No, no, the transcription experience, it speaks for itself, and and like I said, we have our test, like the evaluation that you do through recruiting, but no, definitely not.
And the other
All
thing,
transcribe grads.
I was just about to mention that when my internet blasted me out of here. I was going to just say, there's the Owls Academy. You were talking about the testing and when you go on and you do the brief testing. So AHDI, I'm on the Educators Alliance, and we developed this thing called the Owls Academy. Part of the
Mm.
Owls Academy, and it's free to student members, and you are generally, in quotes, a student member for 2 years within your time frame of your education at CanScribe. But you can go on the Owls Academy and you can take 3 job tests that we created, the theory part. And you can
Mm.
take them all at once. You can take them here and there, take one and come back in 2 weeks, take another, take them multiple times if you want. But it
Mm.
is a realistic facsimile of the kinds of tests that you will encounter in the workplace. And so I do recommend people take that before they go online and test, because you'll see the areas that perhaps you need to study in. So that might help a bit. So all you have to do is go, you know, to AHDI and look up the Owls Academy, and you can find those. And if you need more information on that, you can always email me as well. Ria is asking about the background noise. When we're talking about background noise, we're talking about, yes, poor sound quality, people talking in the background, somebody speaking into the microphone like it's wedged in the roof of their mouth,
Mm-hmm.
or somebody that's in ESL that their culture, uh, East Indian culture, for example, they don't believe in speaking loud. So they have a tendency to talk very quietly, or they talk, you know, in kind of a monotone type thing. And sometimes your speakers or your headsets can help with that, just to filter out different kinds of sound, I've found. And
Certainly. Yeah, absolutely. That's probably one key is taking a look at your headset. We also have, it's part of my job to work with the facilities and the dictators to develop good dictation habits, because it as much as we can.
that's
But we,
awesome.
certainly, if we have individuals that are, speaking on speakerphone, we have, there's ways for you to communicate that with me, and once we've seen it on a couple of occasions, then, we're in touch with our people, and and then there's a few other things that we can do to help you out along the way. But at the end of the day, it's going to help. Your headset will help you reviewing your feedback. We have in our system as well, you have access to all the previous reports, that were typed either on that patient, by that dictator. So, that bit of research, because sometimes these are commonly
Right.
spoken phrases and things like that. So
That's awesome. And the other part too is just, you know, more time. The more you do it,
yeah,
the more in every report, you know, you get better and better at that
yeah,
person.
your ear really gets tuned
Right.
to it, right? You have to develop that ear in the beginning.
Sure.
And you guys have heard some hard ones, like the dictators that that you go through in your training at CanScribe. Those are tough
They're tough.
dictators.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
I think that is
yeah,
what makes them work ready, because without having the bad, you definitely would not be work ready. And that is the whole
right.
point. When somebody has invested the time and the money in a course, you want to get a job. You don't want that to be useless. So I do believe that CanScribe is one of, if not the best, in doing that and producing work-ready people, as long as you stick with it, you know, and you
Yep.
just keep trying, and that's the deal. Um, does Nuance have their MTs working in different specialties and different doctors, or do they try to line them up the same way?
Um, no, for the most part, I mean, there's certain hospitals will only type certain reports, possibly, but for the most part, when you're on an account, you're working on, all the dictators and the work types that are available to our team, with the odd exception. Um, but if you have areas that you struggle in, I mean, we certainly work to make the best match for you as far as the account that you'll be placed on. And then we have the additional training and things that we can offer you to assist with certain specialties. But for the most part, a lot of what one person struggles with is, what the next person also struggles with. So it's more a matter of gaining the experience and getting used to your account.
Right. And
Hmm.
basically, though, you keep them on, from my experience anyway, you keep them on the same account.
Yes,
So
yes,
you do have that continuity. You're always dealing with the same clinics, the same doctors. So those begin to be like second nature to you. You don't have to look all those names up all the time, or you've built them into your, you know, your expander software, things
yes,
like that.
absolutely. So yeah,
Yeah.
if you're contracted to, ABC Hospital, that's where you stay, and that's,
Right.
where you'll gain your experience and get comfortable. We have transcriptionists with 2 and 3 and sometimes 4 accounts if, they want the extra experience and they're working a lot and things like that, but that happens with time. once you're quite comfortable and trained in one,
Right.
in your most comfortable primary account.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And do you use keyboard options instead of foot pedals, or do most people still use foot pedals?
I think there's both. I have people who live and die by their foot pedal. In our eScription software, it's very, very user-friendly to shortcuts. So when I work on it, I no longer use a foot pedal. I
Mm.
haven't for a really long time. So yeah, that's another thing. And I find that it's quicker, but I think that's sort of a personal
It
choice, I
is.
think.
I think I've
Mm-hmm.
always found that, and I taught a course in transcription in a real school. I actually went there, and I didn't know it until I started the first night. They did not provide foot pedals, and I had to just teach them how to use shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts, and I was amazed. I could not believe. I was sure it was going to fail, and I've always used a foot pedal, so I was like, oh my goodness, this is never going to work. They were flying, and
Yep.
it really showed me how productive that was, and I learned something about it myself. I learned how to use the shortcuts, so I think it's invaluable. So,
Yep. No, I think, yeah, you can be, I think it depends on the software, right? To be honest,
right,
because
right,
certain ones are going to be more
better,
user-friendly, but
right, right.
yeah, with our software, it's great.
And
Yep.
are the dictations in the real world of better quality because of the new technology available to the doctors?
Um, yeah, they should, with every upgrade that we do in our program, the voice, the sound quality gets better and better. However, there are, there'll always be those poor dictation habits, the ones, crackly sound and someone using their speakerphone and things like that. But yeah, for the most part, with as time goes on, the voice quality gets stronger and stronger.
And the weird thing to me was some of
Mm-hmm.
the worst dictators actually produce the best draft documents
Mm-hmm.
because they're bad, but they're consistent. And
That's
that
true. No, you're
is
right.
that
They
is the
train
key,
that
right?
recognition so well. Yeah, for
It's
sure.
nuts. And you would think that you would have just gobbledygook all over the page, and it's actually very clear, and it's picking up words that, I mean, we would sit there for 10 hours trying to figure it out.
It's true.
And it is really strange to me, and even some of the ESL dictators, because they have a speech pattern. And I think that that's the weird thing about speech rec. It's kind of a learning experience dealing with it to see which ones, do really well and which ones do awful. The people that I've
Mm-hmm.
thought would make the best draft documents, they're horrible. So it must be something in the pattern of their speech is all I could think of, that you had a lot of corrections to make, but some of the worst you didn't. So,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and someone is asking if you would like to comment on where the industry is going and what's the future of it. It's not a loaded question or anything. And is it growing?
Um, you know what? Obviously there have been a lot of changes, right? And I think that there's been alarm that, oh, now there's, voice recognition and, it's going to eliminate our jobs and, things like that. And I can honestly say, we're quite busy. I see what these drafts put through. It's good, but it never will. I can't see it replacing the human touch.
Exactly.
It's changed the way that, we do things, right? It's not cassette recorders and it's evolved, but no, there's still quite a market. I can't see anything in our lifetime where we can, the human touch won't be required. Like these are people's, healthcare documents, right? A computer can't replace us. in my
No,
opinion.
and plus the fact that there are so many errors that are being
Yeah.
found on a regular basis, major, critical.
Hmm.
This, to me, just brings to the front and center why they need us. And they need people that are qualified, people that can, deduce, people that can figure out that hypo versus hyper doesn't fit here. um,
Yep.
Doses of insulin, let's not even go to that one. So I believe that it is going to be viable. They've been saying this thing about speech rec
Yeah.
for 25 years. I have been in this industry for so long. I'm older than dirt, and all I've heard about is how it's going to go away. Well, I'm still here, and it's
Yeah.
thriving, in my humble opinion, because there's not enough people to do all the work that's there.
It's
So,
true.
it doesn't add
You,
up. The balance doesn't
no,
make
you
sense.
make a good point, and not only the the skill and the training piece, but the human logic piece, right? Like just the
Right,
sensibleness of like the things that we've seen come from the speech draft, right?
right.
Um, yeah, so definitely.
Definitely. Well, I think it's a great profession. And the other thing is there are other things evolving from our profession. So stay tuned, because nowadays they have people that they're finding that somebody has like 2 and 3 medical records, and there's a little bit different thing in their name or a missed birth date, or oh
Hmm.
my goodness, it's like a nightmare with all these electronic records. So they are actually using transcriptionists, and I know this just from, being on committees at AHDI and these evolving positions, but they're now using people to combine those, and they need somebody qualified who can actually, decipher the medical record and decide if this is the same person. So our expertise is needed. It's greatly
Yeah.
valued, and I see a bright future, but I'm always a,
Hmm.
a glasses half full person.
Right.
So I think that if you go into it with the attitude that, today is today. If you can't, you have to live in today, take it for what it is. Think about tomorrow, but don't project too far out there, because nobody
Mm.
knows what the world will be like in any realm, you know?
Yeah. No, and there is
So
so much opportunity. I mean, you look at
there
you and I
is.
as well, right? Where like,
Exactly.
our careers have moved in different directions within the industry as well. So,
Right. And there are always possibilities. So, and when I was younger and I had to flip around a lot because of my children, I did work outside the home for a while, and I had to keep flipping my hours because he worked for the government. And I would grumble about it and say, oh, I'm just so sick and tired of changing jobs. But every one of those helped me, and now I look back on it and say, oh my goodness, that was like stepping stones, little stepping stones to the pinnacle of my career, because I learned all these specialties. And if I had not done that, I never would be in a position that I am in now. So I think that it's a really good thing sometimes. What we don't know about our path won't hurt us, right?
hmm.
Yes. Okay. Last comment. Ria's saying that she thinks that the career will continue, or the industry will continue to grow, because there's always advancements, and that's exactly right too.
Right.
I mean, every day there's something new. So I love it for that reason alone. I'm a very easily bored person, so I think medicine is good for me. And I can't do face to face because I'd be crying all the time, or I'd faint, one or the other. And so this is a good way for me to contribute. I think it's wonderful, and I do feel like it's invaluable what I do. So thank you again, Karen. That was awesome. And I'm so sorry about the presentation. It won't even let me show my screen, so I think it has to do with go to training. So
Oh yeah, possibly. Yeah,
I
but
don't
thank you
know.
for having me, and thanks for listening to me, everyone.
Oh,
And you know
it
what?
was
I hope
perfect.
that perhaps one day in the near future you will join one of my teams, and you can tell me that you were on this call, because that would be very exciting.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Thank you
Yes.
again all for attending. And I will go ahead and post that PDF up, and it has all the information. And it was just a wonderful presentation. I'm sorry I couldn't get it to work. So,
Hey, no, we made it work, so that's great.
okay. All
Thank you,
right.
everyone. Have a
Thank
good
you.
afternoon.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.